Hello, friends. Today is the 27th of May, 2022, and in today's video, I would like to discuss the situation in Ukraine and share with you my opinion on why the Ukrainian armed forces are losing so badly in the east and south of the country. But before I begin, please hit the like button for this video, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Doing so will help me grow an audience and amplify my voice in a conversation about the future of our planet and the human race. It is my belief that we're living in very interesting times, to quote an ancient Chinese proverb, a time not dissimilar to the early 90s when the Soviet Union fell apart and the West found itself without a counterbalancing force. What we're witnessing today is a reemergence of a countering geopolitical force, a direct threat to the world order Western elites have been carefully constructing over the last 30 years or so. When the Russian Federation began its special military operation in eastern Ukraine, it signaled what I hope to be a deconstruction of this global order, an emergence of a multipolar world, a world governed by consensus rather than an imposition of imperial will. But I'm drifting into polemics, so let's get back to the topic I wish to discuss with you today, namely the situation in Ukraine. Those of you who are still following the developments there may be surprised to learn that according to multiple news sources, Russian-speaking ones as well as Western media outlets, Ukraine is losing. And it's losing badly. YouTube channel The Duran, which I recommend you check out, I will try to remember to drop a link in the description below, reports that the morale of Ukrainian troops is very low. Ukrainian soldiers post video clips in which they complain about not having enough to eat. They say they are under-equipped. Their officers abandoned them in a field, that the Russian Federation's artillery is pummeling their positions, forcing them to be in constant retreat. How could this have happened when even last week some European leaders and Zelensky himself were claiming that Russia could not win what they have been calling, and I quote Biden here, an unprovoked and unjustified war in Ukraine? The truth, friends, is that it was going to happen. And military analysts have been predicting this turn of events from the very beginning of Russia's special military operation in Ukraine. You may not have heard their voices because the Western media outlets did their best to ignore them and, in effect, drowned them out as it collectively pushed a movie-like narrative. Evil Russians invading a peaceful country in order to rape and plunder and subjugate its people whose only sin was desiring to become an inseparable part of the European Union and NATO. But this Hollywood narrative is built on lies. It ignores history. It ignores complexity of Ukrainian culture and the social familial ties to Russia. It ignores the corruption of the Zelensky junta and the years and years of Russian Federation's attempts to resolve the conflict in Ukraine by diplomatic means. And as the Ukrainian defensive lines are crumbling in Donbas, so are the lies told by the West come to disintegrate, like a rotten facade that they are. Here are just some strategic reasons for the Ukrainian defeat in the eastern and south parts of the country. Russian Federation armed forces have an enormous advantage in artillery. This enables them to hit Ukrainian fortifications from a long range without exposing its infantry to danger. As you see in this video, Ukrainian fortifications are formidable. The trench is well built. It's positioned on an elevation, providing it a tactical advantage. Under normal circumstances, such positions can be defended easily against frontal assaults by infantry and light armor, perhaps even tanks. But Russian Federation artillery is so precise that it's able to land shells into the trenches themselves. And just like that, the defenders become cannon fodder. Scenes like this are playing out all across the front lines. In addition to dominance of Russian Federation artillery, its air force has an intelligible superiority in the skies. In the first week of the special military operation, Russian Federation Air Force lost planes to surface-to-air missiles, but it adapted and changed its tactics. The planes fly lower, closer to the ground, thus making it almost impossible to target by weapon systems such as Stinger missiles. Russian Federation helicopters have upgraded their countermeasures so that they can decoy multiple missiles coming at them. These changes in tactics and equipment resulted in drop-off of losses for the Russian Federation Air Force, which haven't been that bad to begin with. Even taking even in taking residential areas, Russian armed forces have demonstrated an important ability to adapt and change their tactics in order to minimize loss of life. The astonishingly rapid fall of Liman, a city of 30,000 residents, where Ukrainian forces attempted to resist Russian Federation advance, is an example of this. Yuri Podolyak, a pro-Russian blogger and military analyst, pointed out how Russian Federation forces, having surrounded the town from three sides, allowed an escape route for the garrison defending it. Once heavy artillery bombardment demonstrated to the defenders what kind of fighting was coming their way if they didn't retreat, the defending Ukrainian units got the message and vacated the city as fast as their legs could carry them, dumping equipment and weapons in the process. I have also heard reports of Russian Federation artillery shelling enemy positions with leaflets, urging them to surrender, a psychological warfare tactic that seems to be proving very effective, judging by the number of videos posted by surrendering Ukrainian units on social networks. To summarize, the Ukrainian forces are on the run because they are outgunned, out-equipped, and are under tremendous psychological pressure. It should be mentioned that many of these units, drawn from territorial defense or volunteers, essentially, are not battle-worthy. They have never experienced a shelling by artillery. This is a horrifying thing to live through, and if your unit suffers losses, that is, when you see your buddies torn into shreds, it really destroys your ability to continue fighting. Can you blame them for this? Of course not. The blame rests with their highest leadership. Zelensky is the high commander of Ukrainian armed forces. He makes the calls. He ordered these under-equipped, underfed volunteer battalions to the front line where these poor Ukrainian men were mauled by artillery. He can stop the carnage at any time by begging Russian Federation to resume negotiations, by capitulating. Ukraine cannot win. It is now apparent. Yet Zelensky continues to throw his constituents' lives away, plunging his country farther into crisis because the longer the war goes on, the more Ukrainian civilians will suffer. A couple of months ago, Biden said that he wanted a regime change in Moscow. He was wrong. The regime change the West needs is in Kiev. Kiev needs a responsible, sober leader who will negotiate a surrender for his country before it's too late and the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine becomes a full-blown catastrophe. That's all for today's video. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel, and if you feel like it, leave a comment for me below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.